Was Axel about to beat Trueman? The Price of Decisiveness by TGS Anime. Oh boy, if you haven't seen this duel before, it gets dark. You're in for a treat.
Axel versus Trueman. Halfway through this duel, Trueman, a minion of the final villain, the Darkness, takes on the form of Axel's dad and begins reminding him of his inner darkness. You see, as a child, Axel was given an impossible choice: to save his dad or save his mom. To decide, Axel cleared his mind. He evaluated the situation and made a choice based on logic. He chose to save his dad since he possessed the necessary skills to survive in the wild after. Luckily, everything works out. Axel's dad wakes up, saves his mom, everybody's fine afterwards. Except for Axel's psyche. In Axel's mind, he had basically killed his own mother. To him, looking back on the whole thing, he just wished he'd never had to make that choice at all. He would rather have all three of them died than to now know, I would have let my mom die so I could save my dad, kind of thing. Kind of messed up. So with that in mind, this duel is kind of messed up because the Darkness is exploiting this weakness.
This is actually one of the reasons that people cite Yugioh GX as one of the reasons why it didn't become localized, because season 3 got dubbed. We even have the alleged F-bomb that Yubel drops, right? I think that it wasn't. It does sound very similar to it, though. God, I love Yubel. Oh, I hate Fiendsmith package, but man, I love Yubel. I love playing it. Well, we'll get to that at the end and why I've been doing a little less Yu-Gi-Oh content. But no, this is a duel that quite literally, like, it goes hard. I also like, there's a couple shots about this time in the anime that zooms in on, it was a Kaiba core clipboard, and I think Kaiba was one of the last people standing during the whole takeover of Darkness. Like, Kaiba was an absolute G to the very end.
As this duel parallels the decision Axel made on that fateful day. And it made me wonder, if Axel chose to save his mother, represented in this duel as Volcanic Queen, instead of his father, represented in this duel by Volcanic Doomfire, would the outcome of the duel have changed? Or with any ulterior plays, would the outcome have been different? We won't know unless we jump into the duel.
It's why I love what he does. I love that he reverse engineers the duels. Like, he actually goes through and like, but how does this actually play out? Let's be real.
The duel begins and Axel goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Volcanic Slicer, Switch Off, Big Volcano, Volcanic Mine, Volcanic Doomfire, and Buster Trap. Axel starts by summoning his Volcanic Slicer into attack. He activates its effect to burn for 500 damage at the cost of it being unable to attack this turn. Trueman takes the first damage of the duel. Axel sets his Buster Trap face down and then ends his turn. Right off the bat, Axel's got a lot of cards in his hand that he can set face down. Were they worth setting on the field? Let's assess them. He has Switch Off, a card that has the ability to negate a continuous spell or trap on the field, then change a defense position monster into attack. A good card, but it requires a monster to be on the field in defense to be activated, so I guess that's kind of troublesome. What's that? What does his next card do? Volcanic Mine, which summons bomb tokens into all empty zones.
Oh, look at that Konami spacing on the top line, though. Sometimes Konami has very interesting spacing on cards. So that first one really quick, I mean, sure, you could drop it as like MST bait, but especially in like modern game, especially if your opponent, I don't know, is like running Twin Twisters. Grats, now Twin Twisters is live. Both your back row are now just blown up. Like, there's logic that goes into, do you put it face down or not? If it doesn't immediately hold value to you, yeah, I mean, sure, saving it. Sure, trap cards do require a turn to prime, but that's not the worst thing in the world.
The opponent has into defense, they then destroy themselves during the end phase. Oh, okay, so this card makes that card live, so he definitely could have set these two face down. Okay. We also have Big Volcano, which lets him send one Pyro monster in his hand to the grave to special summon 2 monsters in the opponent's grave to the field. The opponent chooses their battle positions for them.
I don't know why you would put that face down personally. Keep it in hand so it can be live. What's your opponent going to do? Dark World hand rip you?
Card could also be seen as an alternative way to get a monster into defense if the opponent wants to go on the defensive, but not necessarily important in this card right now. And lastly, he has Volcanic Doomfire in his hand, which is currently unplayable. The moral of the story here is Axel 100% should have set Switch Off and Volcanic Mine face down here, or at the very least on his next turn. because they're going to become very handy, and we'll find out why in a minute.
Okay.
It's Trueman's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Dark Archetype, Volcanic Blaster, Volcanic Curse, Flame Wall, the Unchosen One, and Firewall. Trueman starts by summoning
Holy spell and traps, my guy.
his Dark Archetype. Despite having less attack points, he orders it to attack Volcanic Slicer. Dark Archetype is destroyed.
Sure.
However, due to Dark Archetype's effect, since it was destroyed by battle, it lets Trueman special summon a monster in his deck with attack equal to the damage he took, as long as he discards a monster with the same level. Since he took 400 damage, he sends Volcanic Blaster, which is a level 3 monster, in order to summon the 400 attack, level 3 monster in his deck, Dark Psycho Eye. Axel, not knowing what this card can do, activates his set Buster Trap.
Ah, yes. He is the spirit of a true Yu-Gi-Oh player. Bro, what does that card even do? I don't know. Flip Imperm, get out of my game. Bro, effect literally cannot be negated. You cannot target me. Oh.
Which destroys a monster special summon during the battle phase and then immediately ends the battle phase. Dark Psycho Eye is destroyed and the battle phase comes to an end. It's at this point in the duel that Trueman takes on the form of Axel's dad. Following this, Trueman reveals, since Dark Psycho Eye was destroyed, its effect lets Trueman take control of a monster Axel controls until the end of the turn. He
Sure.
takes Volcanic Slicer. Since it hasn't attacked, he uses its effect to deal 500 damage to Axel. Trueman sets his Firewall trap face down and then ends his turn.
I mean, yeah, you want to maximize value, right? Like, cool, I'm going to temporarily take control of this. Oh, by the way, I literally can't attack. Cool, burn you 500. Proceed to go end phase.
As he does, Volcanic Slicer returns back to Axel's side of the field. Now, it's worth noting that Axel used that Buster Trap to destroy Trueman's monster without really knowing what it could do. So, would it have been better to just let him attack or do whatever he was going to do with that monster? No, it wouldn't have been. It's actually a good thing that he used that Buster Trap. This is because Trueman most likely would have crashed his monster into Volcanic Slicer, costing himself 1400 life points. However, he would then be able to take Volcanic Slicer and attack Axel directly for 1800 damage. Meaning Trueman would have 1700 life points left and Axel would have 2200. Fun fact, the duel would play out exactly the same despite this life point discrepancy. However, now with only 2200 life points that Axel has, he would lose earlier, around the time that Volcanic Queen hits the field.
Okay.
So it's actually a good thing Buster Trap wasn't activated. It's Axel's turn, and he draws Blaze Accelerator. He immediately enters his battle phase and uses Volcanic Slicer to attack Trueman directly. However, Trueman activates his set Firewall. Now, whenever Trueman is attacked directly, he can banish a Pyro-type monster in his grave to negate the attack. However, he must also pay 500 life points during each of his standby phases to keep this card on the field.
It'd be really cool, actually, to have a suite of cards like this. Obviously, you'd have something like a warrior archetype focused one, probably go for a lot more dragon. I feel like, because there's certain things they print and there's certain things they don't for certain attributes and archetypes, right? Like Reinforcement of the Army grabs like warrior monsters. Snake Rain does something with reptiles. Emergency Teleport deals with psychic monsters, right? And then you have I'm trying to think around like you have like Bonfire or Pyro, right? Like, I mean, we have certain searchers and stuff, but like we don't really have, like, as far as I'm aware, a 1-to-1 of Rhoda or Bonfire for like dragons. And sure, we have certain archetypes of things like Sky Strikers, Mobilize, Engage, right? Grabs Sky Striker cards. But generally, the more, and we've talked about this before, the broader something is, like, you need to balance out cards, realistically, is what I'm trying to say, right? If you have a broader, a bigger effect, you narrow the scope. If you have an effect that's kind of niche, even if it's really powerful, sure, but it's niche and thus requires more to get going, right? Exodia requires 5 pieces in hand. On drawing 5th piece, check for win condition, right? But you have to have 5 cards in your hand and you have to dig through your entire deck to get to it, right? It's not like you draw a card, spell speed 1, drop it, and then be like, I just win the game, right? Like that from a game design standpoint, that just doesn't work. That's not conducive to a good game state. As much as Yu-Gi-Oh can be in really unfortunate game states over the years, FTKs especially, I don't think it's been quite that bad.
Trueman banishes Volcanic Blaster in his grave. Firewall negates the direct attack from Volcanic Slicer. With no further plays, Axel ends his turn. It's back to Trueman, and he draws Volcanic Wall. The standby phase occurs, and Trueman pays the 500 life points to keep Firewall on the field. Trueman activates his continuous spell, Flame Wall. This card makes it so that he takes no further damage from opponent's card's effects, essentially shutting off Axel's win condition. He follows this play up by activating his second continuous spell, Volcanic Wall. Now, once per turn, he can mill the top 3 cards of his deck to the grave. If any pyro monsters go to the grave this way, the opponent takes 500 damage for each. However, by doing this, Trueman cannot declare an attack that turn.
Me looking at like Burning Abyss, and I'm just like, but would you actually run this unironically? I hear Burning Abyss doesn't like cards in their deck.
Foregoing his battle phase, he uses Volcanic Wall. Volcanic Rat, Volcanic Cyclone, and Volcanic Shell are sent to the grave. Since 2 pyro monsters went to the grave, Axel takes 1000 damage. Trueman ends his turn. It's Axel's turn, and he draws Tri-Blaze Accelerator. With all the pieces in place, Axel activates Blaze Accelerator. He then immediately sends it to the grave to upgrade it into Tri-Blaze Accelerator. He then immediately sends that to the grave in order to upgrade it into his ace monster, Volcanic Doomfire. Now, with this monster on the field, the opponent must attack Doomfire if they enter their battle phase with any attack position monsters. If this card destroys a monster in battle, all other monsters the opponent controls are also destroyed, and 500 damage is dealt for each one destroyed this way.
I unironically think Yu-Gi-Oh could use modern Yu-Gi-Oh could use a lot more of these monsters, especially when we're getting to a point where we have things like Requiem, which off of a single card can solitaire out half your deck. It's disgusting how hard something like Requiem. As somebody who plays Yubel, I have every incentive to make sure that card is not banned. I think that Requiem leads to a very unhealthy game state, especially setting precedent for archetypes and power creep going forward. I'm going to say it. I said it. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. Yeah, no, Requiem's bad for the health of the game, in my opinion, as well as the game going forward. We were talking about in the server how the line kind of gets drawn when you can use things multiple times a turn. Even if it's like even a soft once per turn. Like Mirror Jade is kind of fine if you can start cycling through Mirror Jades because there's investment that goes into that. Branded players are going to be like, what investment? Don't worry. I have the 8-hour video. I need to have my college course in Branded from that 8-hour video. I just have yet to find the time to react to it, or not react to it, watch it. There's theory that goes into Branded. Branded has a lot of lines of play, and that's actually why I love it. It's a very, very powerful deck still, even with one Branded fusion. But like, oh god, I feel like if you locked something like Volcanic Doomfire, not only behind 1, but 2 continuous spell cards, because remember, continuous spell cards can be MST'd because they can be destroyed. MST doesn't technically negate, but you know, if you still flip up like a Tri-Blaze Accelerator, like they can still just gank it with like back row removal, or like it's like Fireface Tenki doesn't actually go off if it gets Chain Link 2 to MST'd because it's getting destroyed because it's continuous. I think locking more powerful effect behind things like this is fine. When we start talking about modern Yu-Gi-Oh, I would argue people don't even hate hand traps. And I've talked to a couple of people about this. It's not that people hate hand traps inherently, because remember, Karibo is a hand trap. Base OG Duel Monsters Karibo. I don't think people were complaining about DD Crow back when it released, but to be fair, the meta was different back then, right? The issue with hand traps is when they become omnipresent, and when it starts locking people out of the game with little to no way to respond to it, right? Especially when you can, I don't know, Ash Blossom a person 3 times in a turn, which I did do like literally yesterday. I hopped on Master Duel on stream and like literally Ash Blossomed a dude 3 times in a single turn. Dude still went Requiem and still solitaired out half his deck. I still won because Nightmare Pain is disgusting. But like, oh god, modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitive level is just, it's such a wild experience. So that's why when I say things like this, why I think Yu-Gi-Oh needs more monsters like this in Modern. Sure, then make them soft once per turn, especially you can flip-flop back and forth. Kind of like Extra Deck. If Extra Deck is an Extra Deck monster is properly summoned, like Stardust Dragon is synchro summoned and it dies due to effect, you can actually bring it back. But if you bring it out with, like, what was it, Starlight Road or something like that, and it goes away from the effect, you can't bring it back because it was not properly summoned first. Because properly summoning is, in fact, a thing that is important in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I think that there needs to be more to get some of these effects. I think that the power creep is absolutely insane with some of the stuff being printed nowadays. And I'm okay with, like, with meta decks, right? I'm okay with some interplay. I'm okay with playing with power. It's locking opponents out of the game, FTKs, non-interactive board states. It's what I have trouble getting behind, which is consequently why I like watching TGS Anime, watch videos, and, you know, dissect duels like this. Because it's so cool to see different eras of the game and reverse engineer things like this and really just kind of enjoy the game. And I think that's where I'm at. I think I'm enjoying the game at a more casual level now because that's a competitive scene.
And so, Axel attacks Trueman directly with Doomfire and Slicer. Trueman banishes his only two pyro monsters in the grave, Volcanic Rat and Volcanic Shell, to negate both of the direct attacks. Axel ends his turn by setting Switch Off and Volcanic Mine. And here is where Axel could have won the duel. The play he plans to do on his next turn is what he could have done on this turn. All he had to do was set those two cards face down on his last turn or his first turn. You see, Axel makes the classic Yu-Gi-Oh character error of showing the audience what he plans to do. If any character in any of the series shows you what they're about to do on their next turn, it's not gonna happen. Classic rookie move there. But because of this, we know his plan was he was gonna use Volcanic Mine to special summon 5 bomb tokens to Trueman's field. Then he was gonna activate Switch Off to negate the effect of Flame Wall and switch one of the bomb tokens into attack. This means that burn damage is not only back on the menu, but we have a way of dealing battle damage and effect damage. Axel would use Doomfire to attack into the attack position bomb token, that's 2000 battle damage, followed by 2000 effect damage from blowing up the 4 other tokens. This would win Axel the duel. Ultimately, this play won't work out, but had he done all of this on this turn, he would have won the duel. And this isn't even a hindsight thing. With Firewall on the field preventing direct attacks, that also would have been a worthwhile thing to negate if the other cards didn't get played on the field. The only defense Trueman could have done in hindsight, knowing that this is all going to go this way, is he could have set his Volcanic Curse face down prior to this turn, since that card increases the attack of attacked monster by 500 for every pyro in the grave. However, with only 2 pyros in the grave, Doomfire would still win in a battle against an attack position token. However, Axel would only be able to deal 3000 damage, and since Trueman has 3100, he'd have 100 life points left over, and we can't attack directly with Volcanic Slicer because of Firewall. But that doesn't matter, because we've negated Flame Wall. We don't need to attack with Volcanic Slicer. We just move into our main phase 2, activate the effect of Volcanic Slicer, burn for 500 damage. Axel's won the duel.
Would you say that, I know Cowboy is a very distinct thing because it's a rank 4 generic Ixie summon, but like, come on. I feel like there have been a non-zero amount of duels that have literally been won by Slicer Effect GG. That 500 can add up.
So there you go. Axel could have 100% won this duel if he had set these 2 cards face down on a previous turn. Misplay Axel, you cost yourself the duel. It's Trueman's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Volcanic Queen. The standby phase occurs, and Trueman again pays the maintenance cost to keep Firewall in play. Using the effect of the Volcanic Queen in his hand, Trueman tributes Axel's Volcanic Slicer to summon it to Axel's side of the field.
Because remember, as it turns out, Volcanic Queen is effectively, well, it's a mini lava golem, right? But it's effectively a not kaiju.
Mommy!
Trueman, wanting to traumatize Axel, activates his The Unchosen One. This card forces Axel to make a decision. He must choose one monster on his side of the field to save. The card chosen remains on the field, while all others are destroyed. Then, one of the destroyed monsters is summoned to the opponent's side of the field. If we haven't noticed, Volcanic Queen represents Axel's mom, Volcanic Doomfire represents Axel's dad. Axel now has to make the choice, save his mom or save his dad. I mean save Volcanic Doomfire or save Volcanic Queen. Axel, again forced to make an impossible choice, has a quick glance at Volcanic Queen's effect. He deduces Volcanic Doomfire has the necessary effects needed to help him survive the duel. And so, mirroring the past, he again chooses to save the statistically better choice, Volcanic Doomfire. Switch off, Volcanic Mine and Volcanic Queen are destroyed. Trueman summons Volcanic Queen to his side of the field thanks to the second effect of the Unchosen One. Trueman, unable to attack over Doomfire, activates his Volcanic Wall. He mills the top 3 cards of his deck, sending Volcanic Hammerer, Bonfire, and Volcanic Rats. Since 2 Pyros were sent to the grave, Axel takes 1000 damage. Trueman then activates the effect of Volcanic Queen. He can send 1 card he controls to the grave to inflict 1000 damage to the opponent. He sends Flame Wall. Trueman ends his turn by setting his Volcanic Curse face down. As he does, the maintenance cost of Volcanic Queen kicks in, which is either a monster on the field needs to be tributed or the wielder must take 1000 damage.
You know, I actually think maintenance costs like this could be really interesting in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, obviously, base Yubel, right? Base Yubel has a maintenance cost, which is mitigated by Samsara D Lotus, because that's literally why its end phase effect literally can activate, right? Activate special summon itself, Yubel's effect activate, get rid of the Samsara D Lotus. Like, I love that there are decks that can play around that. And I think it's interesting that in a non-cutting edge competitive sphere, Yu-Gi-Oh! I think becomes a much more varied game. It just comes down to like, and this is the age-old question, right? How do you construct a format? How do you build for that? Because as it turns out, if you just ban every power card in the game, you ban Ash Blossom, you ban XYZ ABC, like a meta will still develop regardless of what you do. And there is a certain point when it's like, bro, why are we just playing like Frognarks again? I think it's super interesting to think about these things.
As Trueman controls no other monsters, he takes 1000 damage. It's Axel's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Volcanic Scattershot. He activates Big Volcano. Now, by discarding 1 Pyro monster, he can special summon 2 monsters in the opponent's grave to their side of the field, but the opponent chooses their battle positions. Axel discards Volcanic Scattershot. Volcanic Rat and Volcanic Hammerer are summoned to Trueman's side of the field into defense. Due to Scattershot's effect, since it was sent to the grave,
500.
it inflicts 500 damage to the opponent. Axel enters his battle phase and orders Volcanic Doomfire to attack Volcanic Queen. If this attack is successful, Trueman will take 500 battle damage followed by 1000 burn damage, resulting in Trueman losing the duel. However, Trueman has one final play. He activates Volcanic Curse. This card increases the attack of one of his monsters by 500 for each Pyro monster in each player's grave. With 2 Pyros in Axel's grave, Queen gains 1000 attack points. Volcanic Queen instead destroys Volcanic Doomfire in the battle.
So that would have had to modify it during damage calculation, right? Because modification of attack during declaration of attack, I think, is a replay. Anything that adjusts the board state, right? So like if I have, say, I don't know, Blue Eyes, and I swing into your Dark Magician, and then you activate, I don't know, something, like maybe like Eternal Soul or something, like anything that changes board state, like Gratz here, have another Dark Magician, or have Dark Magician Girl, like, because you've modified board state, the Blue Eyes can choose whether to still attack or not. Even if you're still attacking, from a mechanical perspective, you still do get a replay of battle because the board state has changed. So I am getting confirmation, and thank you in chat, because I couldn't remember point value modification affected that. Yes, if point values are changed, that could cause a replay of battle, unless it's done in damage calculation, because damage calculation plays by slightly different rules. Because damage calculation, like, you're already engaged in it, and you're calculating the totals. It's why fewer things interact in damage calculation than, say, just generic battle phase.
500 life points left. Axel loses the duel. But did he really have to?
Daddy, Mommy, こうすればよかったんだね。この絶望の中で、こうやって3人で。
You see, there's actually no reason why Axel couldn't have attacked the tiny little volcanic rat instead of attacking into Volcanic Queen. This is because Trueman only has 600 life points left. 2 monsters would have been destroyed via Doomfire's effect, dealing 1000 burn damage. Trueman got rid of Flame Wall previously, so burn damage isn't being nullified. And you might say, well, this is a hindsight thing. He wanted to attack into the monster because that would have dealt damage and helped him win the duel. But let's be honest, if we're going by the logic of the show, I assume that Axel wouldn't want to attack into the representation of his mom and destroy it. It still gets destroyed, don't get me wrong, by Doomfire's effect. Yeah. But he could attack into the rat, kill the rat, and they're killed by like byproducts kind of thing. So, you know, I think it makes sense that he probably should have attacked one of the other monsters. And then had he done that, if Trueman did use his trap card, well, it won't do anything because he summoned his monsters into defense. And even if he would have summoned them in attack, it wouldn't have been enough of an attack boost if he attacked into the rat anyway. So, with that all out of the way, yes, Axel definitely could have won this duel in a few different ways. And to answer the question I posed earlier, would Axel have won if he'd taken Volcanic Queen instead of Doomfire? No, if he'd have taken Volcanic Queen, he would have lost very quickly. It was the right choice not to take it. Want to watch a video of me playing with a volcanic card? Well, I have a video right here. Or if you'd like to learn more about the volcanic cards themselves, well, I have another video right here. Don't forget to subscribe because it means a lot. But other than that, thank you all for watching. Catch you later.
Definitely go subscribe to TGS Anime. Look, I don't know the dude personally. I love his content. I think he puts out some great work. I also love that he does, you know, play at a competitive level, as it seems. I actually do want to watch his archetype video. We'll see how that goes, because I actually really like learning about archetypes I really haven't delved into before. I just think it's super cool. I think this was also an interesting episode because it showcases, was it a misplay or was it an attempt? Like, this is us reading why are the curtains blue kind of thing, right? Was his trauma why he misplayed to begin with? Did he tunnel vision? Him attacking Volcanic Queen, was that an attempt for him to overcome his trauma and thus being unable to overcome his trauma? It being thrown back at him and just saying this is how it should have been, right? Like there's layers to this. And I think it's cool because you can have the argument that he just misplayed, you know, don't misplay 5-head. And there's also the argument of dude is literally just a traumatized teen doing his best to try to deal with a really foobarred situation, right? And I think it's super cool. As I said, this actually leads into my lack of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. And I apologize for that because I know there's definitely people who look forward to my Yu-Gi-Oh reactions and me talking about the game. No, it's not because I've been talking about L5R, Legend of the Five Rings recently, although that is in part. The state of the game right now is just in such a flux. As a Yubel player, I love Yubel. I think it's great. I think that Fiendsmith and the Mulch armies are just a step too far in the wrong direction. I think that it really is just, it's not a game that I think is in a healthy state right now. That being said, on a casual level, absolutely. But it comes down to how do you house roll that? How do you get everyone on the same board, right? And at the end of the day, Fiendsmith is perfectly legal. You can run Requiem, you can run Engravers, you can run Lacrima, right? Well, Lacrima of the Crimson Tears, that one specifically. And I definitely think that it's hard to balance a game like Yu-Gi-Oh with an eternal card pool. It just is. It's so hard to balance something like that. Let's be fair. Let's be fair to Konami. But I do think that there are things that could make the metagame better. And I have a passion for it. But I think as a competitive player, I've taken a step back a little bit, especially because I really just don't have the upfront capital to keep on the cutting edge deck every single secret that comes out of each set, right? And I think that's fine. I think it also does showcase that even if you're a more casual fan, that's fine. It's perfectly fine to be a competitive player. I'm not vilifying you. Like, go for it. Pop off. Solitaire out that deck. It's really cool to watch. But it's also okay just to enjoy the anime, to watch people do really cool breakdowns of it, to just engage with a series and a game that you're just kind of comfortable with. Even if you just build 3 Blue Eye structure decks and smash them together and say, hey, let's have a game, right? I think that there's definitely a place for players like that. And I think that needs to be stressed a lot more. And definitely, I do look forward to Ever Forbidden and Limitless because hopefully the game does take a turn. And I think that there needs to be something done with the ban list. But I've rambled on. Thank you, TGS Anime. I really do appreciate your uploads. I always feel guilty when I do a bunch of them, especially in quick succession, because I know how long these take to make. We'll assume how long these take to make. You've talked about them before. And it's very easy for me to sit here and kind of digest content and intake content. And I want to make sure that I'm being as respectful as possible because this is really good quality content. I honestly love this. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. Let me know what your favorite card is. And I'll see you in the next one.